My name is Hannah Miller, and for most of my life, I was the daughter my family tolerated. Not loved, not celebrated, tolerated. My older sister, Madison, was the golden child. She was beautiful, confident, loud, and somehow always right, even when she was wrong. My mother adored her. If Madison failed, she was going through a hard time. If I failed, I was irresponsible. If Madison cried, everyone comforted her. If I cried, I was being dramatic. That was the rule in our house. Madison was special. I was difficult. By the time I was 27, I had accepted it, or at least I thought I had. I had my own small apartment, a decent job as a graphic designer, and a quiet life that I built piece by piece without much help from anyone. But deep down, there was still a part of me that wanted my mother to look at me the way she looked at Madison. Just once. I wanted to be chosen without begging. So when my mom called and said, "We're planning a family trip to Florida. You should come," I said yes before thinking. It sounded like a chance to reconnect, a chance to be included, a chance to feel like I belonged. Mom said she was booking everything: flights, hotel rooms, rental cars, activities. She told me not to worry. "Just send me your vacation dates," she said. "I'll handle the rest." For the first time in a long time, I let myself feel hopeful. I bought a new summer dress. I packed sunscreen, sandals, and a small gift for my mom because I thought maybe this trip could be different. Maybe we could sit by the beach and talk like normal mothers and daughters. Maybe Madison would be kinder now that we were adults. Maybe I had been holding on to old pain for too long. That is what I told myself. The lie felt nice while it lasted. The first sign came at the airport. I arrived early, nervous but excited, dragging my suitcase behind me. Mom was already there with Ma, Deason, Madison's husband Tyler, and my younger cousin Rachel. Madison was wearing oversized sunglasses indoors and laughing loudly at something Tyler had said. Mom hugged Madison first, then Rachel, then Tyler. Then she looked at me and said, "Oh, good, you made it." Not "Hi, honey." Not "I'm glad you came." Just, "You made it." I smiled anyway, because that is what I had trained myself to do. On the plane, Mom had arranged seats together for everyone. Everyone except me. Madison and Tyler sat with Mom near the front. Rachel sat across from them. I was assigned a middle seat 12 rows behind, between a man who slept with his elbow out and a woman watching videos without headphones. When I texted Mom, "Did the seats get mixed up?" she replied, "Sorry, honey, the system did it. Don't make a big deal." Don't make a big deal. That sentence was the soundtrack of my childhood. So I swallowed the hurt and stared out at the clouds. When we landed in Florida, the heat hit us like a wall. Mom had rented an SUV, but somehow there was not enough room for my suitcase in the back. Madison laughed and said, "Maybe Hannah packed her whole sad little apartment." Mom chuckled. I forced a smile and held my bag on my lap for the entire ride to the hotel. The hotel was beautiful. White walls, palm trees, glass doors opening into a lobby that smelled like coconut and expensive flowers. For a moment, I forgot the airport. I thought, maybe this is where things get better. Then we walked to the front desk. Mom gave her name to the receptionist. The receptionist typed for a moment and smiled. "Yes, Mrs. Miller. I see 3 rooms under your reservation." 3 rooms. I waited. Madison and Tyler got 1 room. Mom and Rachel got 1 room. And the 3rd room was for my aunt and uncle who were arriving later that night. I looked at Mom. She avoided my eyes. The receptionist handed over the key card. I laughed softly because I thought there must be a mistake. "Mom," I said, "where's my room?" The lobby went quiet. Not completely quiet, but quiet enough. Mom pressed her lips together. "Oh, Hannah," she said, like I was being inconvenient. "I thought you would just share." "With who?" Madison raised an eyebrow. "Not with me," she said quickly. "Tyler and I are married. We need privacy." Rachel looked uncomfortable and stared at the floor. I turned back to Mom. "Share with you and Rachel?" Mom sighed. "There are 2 beds, but Rachel already said she needs one because of her back and I can't sleep well if I'm crowded." I stared at her. "So where am I supposed to sleep?" Mom lowered her voice. There's probably a couch in the room. A couch? Madison laughed. Not a small laugh. A sharp, cruel laugh. Oh my gosh, Hannah, why are you acting shocked? You should be grateful you're even here. I felt my cheeks burn. People were walking around us, families checking in, kids running with pool toys, couples holding hands. And there I was, 27 years old, realizing my own mother had brought me on a family trip without booking me a bed. I took time off work, I said. I asked you if everything was booked. Mom's face hardened. And I paid for most of this trip, she said. So maybe don't start complaining in the lobby. That was the moment I should have left. I know that now. I should have turned around, booked another hotel, and walked away. But humiliation has a strange way of making you freeze. Part of you wants to scream. Another part wants to disappear. I chose disappearing. I nodded. Fine, I whispered. Madison smirked. And then she said the sentence that changed everything. A failure doesn't deserve a room anyway. The words hit me harder than I expected. Not because Madison had never insulted me before. She had, many times. But this time, she said it in public. In front of our mother. In front of a stranger at the Frau. And in front of a lobby full of people. And my mother did nothing. She did not say, Madison, stop. She did not say, don't talk to your sister like that. She did not even look surprised. She just looked annoyed that I had made the moment uncomfortable. Something inside me cracked. Quietly. Completely. I looked at Madison. Then I looked at Mom. And for the first time in my life, I did not feel small. I felt finished. I smiled. Not because I was happy. Because suddenly everything was clear. Thank you, I said. Madison blinked. For what? She asked. For saying it out loud? Mom frowned. Hannah, don't be dramatic. I turned to the receptionist. Do you have any rooms available for tonight? The receptionist, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes, glanced at my family and then back at me. Yes, she said carefully. We have a few. I'll take one. Mom's eyes widened. Hannah, don't be ridiculous. This hotel is expensive. I know. You can't afford it. Madison crossed her arms. She definitely can't. I pulled out my credit card. The receptionist took it. Madison's smile faded a little. Mom grabbed my arm. Hannah, stop. You're embarrassing me. I looked at her hand on my arm. Then I looked at her. No, I said calmly. You embarrassed me. The receptionist handed me a key card. Room 1208, Ocean View. I almost laughed at the irony. For once, the room nobody thought I deserved was better than the rooms they had booked for themselves. I picked up my suitcase. Mom whispered, You're being selfish. I stopped walking, turned around, and said, No, I'm being done. Then I walked to the elevator. My hands were shaking when the doors closed. Not from fear. From years of holding back words I had never allowed myself to say. When I reached my room, I opened the door and stood frozen. It was beautiful. Big bed, clean white sheets, balcony, ocean in the distance. The kind of room Madison would have posted online with a caption about blessings. I set my suitcase down and sat on the edge of the bed. Then I cried. I cried because I was angry. I cried because I was embarrassed. I cried because part of me still wished Mom would knock on the door and apologize. But she didn't. Instead, my phone buzzed. Mom. You made everyone uncomfortable. Madison. Enjoy pretending you're rich. Mom again. We're meeting for dinner at 7. Please fix your attitude. I stared at the screen. Then, for the first time in my life, I did not reply. I took a shower, changed into the new dress I had bought, put on lipstick, and went to dinner by myself. Not with them. Alone. There was a small seafood restaurant across from the hotel. I sat outside under string lights, ordered grilled fish, and watched the sunset turn the sky pink. At first, I felt pathetic, then peaceful. No one mocked me. No one rolled their eyes. No one made me feel grateful for crumbs. Just me. A quiet table, a warm breeze, and the beginning of a decision. The next morning, Madison posted photos from breakfast. Everyone smiling. Caption: family trip with my favorite people. I was not in the photo. I looked at it for a long time. Then I closed the app. By noon, Mom called. I ignored it. She called again. Ignored. Then Rachel texted. Are you okay? Rachel was the only one who had looked guilty in the lobby. I replied, I'm okay, I just need space. She wrote back, I'm sorry. What Madison said was awful. I stared at those words. Someone had finally said it. Awful. Not a joke. Not me being sensitive. Awful. That afternoon, I went to the beach alone. I brought a book but barely read it. Mostly, I watched families around me. A mother putting sunscreen on her daughter's shoulders. A father teaching his son to jump over waves. Sisters taking selfies together. For a while, it hurt. Then I realized something. I had spent my whole life trying to earn a seat at a table where people kept moving the chair. Maybe the problem was not that I was unworthy. Maybe the problem was that I kept asking the wrong people to value me. That evening, Mom knocked on my hotel door. When I opened it, she pushed past me like she owned the room. Madison followed. Of course. Mom looked around and scoffed. Well, this is unnecessary. Madison crossed her arms. Must be nice spending money you don't have. I stood near the door. What do you want? Mom gave me that disappointed look she had perfected years ago. We need to talk about your behavior. I laughed. I could not help it. My behavior? You separated yourself from the family, she said. You didn't book me a place in the family. That's not fair. I looked at her. Mom, you booked rooms for everyone except me. I assumed you'd be flexible. No, I said. You assumed I'd accept being treated badly. Madison rolled her eyes. Here we go. Poor Hannah. Always the victim. I turned to her. No, Madison. I'm not the victim anymore. That's why you're uncomfortable. Her face changed. Just a little. Mom snapped. Don't talk to your sister like that. There it was. The protection Madison always got. The protection I never did. I nodded slowly. Thank you for proving my point. Mom's mouth opened, but no words came. So I said everything. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just clearly. You have spent my whole life making me feel like I should be grateful for basic kindness. You praise Madison for breathing and criticize me for existing. You invite me on a family trip but don't book me a bed. Then when she calls me a failure, you protect her feelings instead of mine. Madison looked away. Mom's face turned red. That's not true. It is true, I said. And I'm done pretending it isn't. Mom's voice dropped. So what? You think you're better than us now because you booked one hotel room? No, I said. I think I'm finally treating myself better than you do. Silence. For the first time, neither of them had a quick response. I opened the door wider. I want you both to leave. Mom stared at me like she did not recognize me. Maybe she didn't. Because the Hannah she knew apologized to keep peace. This Hannah chose herself. Madison walked out first, muttering something under her breath. Mom paused in the doorway. You'll regret pushing family away. I looked at her and said, I regret begging family to love me. She left, and I closed the door. The next morning, I changed my flight. I did not tell them. I checked out early, took a taxi to the airport, and flew home while they were probably still arguing over breakfast. When I landed, I had 17 missed calls. Mom, Madison. Mom again. I listened to one voicemail. Mom's voice was sharp. I cannot believe you abandoned us on a family trip. I laughed. Abandoned. That word sounded strange coming from her. I deleted the voicemail. Then I sent one message in the family group chat. I came on this trip hoping to feel included. Instead, I was humiliated. I'm taking space. Do not contact me unless you are ready to speak with respect and accountability. Then I muted the chat. The silence that followed was terrifying and wonderful. For the first few weeks, guilt attacked me. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe I should apologize. Maybe I ruined the trip. But every time those thoughts came, I remembered the lobby, my suitcase in my hand, my mother's annoyed face, Madison's voice saying, "A failure doesn't deserve a room anyway." And I reminded myself, that was not love. That was not family. That was a pattern. A month later, Rachel came to my apartment with coffee and pastries. She hugged me at the door. "I should have said something sooner," she said. I shrugged. "You were scared." She nodded. I was. But I'm not anymore. Rachel told me that after I left, Madison complained nonstop. Mom tried to make everyone agree that I was dramatic. But my aunt finally asked, "Why didn't you book Hannah a room?" Mom had no answer. For once, someone asked the right question. That was the beginning. Not of a perfect ending, but of a new one. I started therapy. I learned words like emotional neglect, scapegoat, golden child, boundaries. I learned that healing is not becoming cold. Healing is becoming honest. I stopped answering calls that began with blame. I stopped attending dinners where I was the joke. I stopped shrinking so other people could feel comfortable. Madison sent me one message months later. "You really think you're better than me?" I replied, "No, I just don't think you're better than me anymore." She never answered. Mom took longer. 6 months later, she emailed me. Not a real apology. More like a list of reasons why she was stressed, why money was tight, why Madison was just joking, why I had always been sensitive. I read it once. Then I replied, "I'm willing to have a relationship only if it includes respect. If you cannot acknowledge what happened without excuses, I'm not available." She did not reply for 3 weeks. Then one day, a shorter email came. "I should have booked you a room. I should have defended you. I'm sorry." I cried when I read it. Not because it fixed everything. It didn't. But because for the first time, my mother said the truth without blaming me for it. We are not close now. Not in the way I once dreamed. We speak sometimes, carefully, with boundaries. Madison and I barely speak at all. And honestly, that has brought me more peace than forcing sisterhood ever did. But me? I am different. That trip changed me. Not because my sister was cruel. She had always been cruel. Not because my mother humiliated me. She had done that before. It changed me because, for the first time, I stopped waiting for them to choose me. I booked my own room. I chose my own peace. I walked away from a table where I was only invited to be insulted, and I finally understood. It's something I wish I had known years earlier. You do not need to keep proving your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. You do not need to stay where you are tolerated, but not respected. You do not need to accept humiliation just because it comes from family. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not scream, not fight, not beg. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is calmly pick up your suitcase, walk to the front desk, and give yourself the room they said you did not deserve. Because that day, my sister called me a failure. But she was wrong. A failure is not someone who finally chooses herself. A failure is not someone who walks away from disrespect. A failure is not someone who decides that peace matters more than approval. I was not the failure. I was the daughter who survived being overlooked. I was the sister who got tired of being mocked. I was the woman who finally learned that love should not require self-betrayal. My mom humiliated me on our family trip. My sister's cruel words broke something inside me. But what broke was not my heart. It was the chain. And once it broke, I was free.